Hello, my name's Dan Graves and I was a pastor for 25 years. About a year and a half after I retired, my son Aaron was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor. After a 5-year struggle, the brain tumor finally won, and on June 5th of last year, 2019, Aaron died. Life's been an up and down journey since then. Some days are better than others. Some days I'll cry, some days cuss. Most days I just hurt, deep, deep inside. I'll be recounting the events of my son's 5-year struggle with cancer in this video series. My hope is that as I recall the events and what God taught me through them, I'll be comforted and strengthened. As I share these events, my hope is that you will be comforted and strengthened as well. Before I walk you through the first days of our journey, let me share with you a lesson I learned just a couple of weeks ago. A lesson that actually gave me some comfort as well as a different perspective on my loss. A lesson that might help you as you grieve. About the time Aaron's health was declining, doctors found a growth on my kidney, which was removed. In a follow-up CT scan, a growth was discovered on my pancreas. So Nancy and I decided to go to Duke Medical Center. The oncologist at Duke ordered another CT scan and biopsy to be done before my appointment so he could determine a plan of action. Well, when we met with the oncologist, he explained that all the tests were inconclusive, so he wanted to have his people do another biopsy. I guess he didn't want to leave something inside me if it was cancerous. So 2 months after the first biopsy, another biopsy was performed, this time at Duke Medical Center. After the procedure, I called my daughter to let her know I was all right and that the doctors couldn't find the growth. So I told her that I hadn't asked God to remove it because I asked God for 5 years to remove Aaron's brain tumor, but he still died. I told her I just couldn't pray that right now. She said she had prayed for me. Have you ever had a thought pop into your head so clearly you knew it was a word from God? Well, after talking to my daughter, my wife and I went out for breakfast, and a thought popped into my mind as clearly as if my wife had said it. It's not all about you. Maybe my brush with pancreatic cancer wasn't all about me as much as it was about strengthening my daughter's faith through answered prayer. It seems that when tragedy strikes, most of us take it personally. I know I did. When my son died at 33 years of age, leaving a wife and 2 kids, I took it very personally. But maybe it's not all about me. Maybe the good that God promises will come out of it in Romans 8:28 has more to do with Aaron's wife, his kids, or the hundreds of people who came to his funeral than it does with me. Now, you can be sure my son's death impacted my life. My life would never be the same, but still my faith is strong. What about the people my son touched during his life? What's the condition of their faith, and how did his life and death affect it? Remember, as a follower of Jesus Christ, my goal is to help others know him. While I grieve over my son's death, it might help me to remember that it's not all about me. There may be others who have moved closer to God by my son's death. If you're grieving over the death of someone you love, or if tragedy has blown your life apart, as hard as it might seem, try to remind yourself that it may not be all about you. This truth might ease some of your pain as it has for me. Now, I wish I would have learned the lesson earlier in the grief process, but then maybe I wasn't ready. Only God knows. Next time, I'll tell you how God was with us in the ER when we first learned that my son had an inoperable brain tumor. Until then, I'm Dan.